fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got rid of the outside of both of them. Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson. Anderson's up to
Oh my God! Oh, big crash. Oh my goodness, half the field's going to get rolled.
Six very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, here we go. Oh no, that's massive. This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh my God.
God, what?
Well, it's time to crown a champion in the Ozicar Turbo Touring Car Series, the rebirth for Season 7 with the 3 models. This is the final Nurburgring Gesamtstrecke VLN around the mountain touring car action. And well, it is going to be very fiercely competed. Plenty of drivers and with plenty of racing too, because we've got both divisions, Pro-Am and Pro. First up, though, will be the Pro-Am division. It's awesome to be bringing you all the racing from all the categories and all the drivers. No one misses out here in Ozicar, and that's awesome. So I'm David Haynes with Cam Dance for this sim speed coverage. Cam, front-wheel drive touring cars, pretty strong slipstream, plenty of places around here for that to happen, but also lots of dangerous blind corners, aggressive curbs.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of the toughest circuits on the calendar that we go to here, and it's, well, generally one of the toughest tracks in the world, in fact. So it's going to be certainly a very, very big challenge for pretty much all the drivers tonight, whether you're Pro or Pro-Am, and pretty much doesn't matter how many laps you've done around here, you've made at least one mistake at some point, regardless, with so many corners, 154 to be exact. So it's going to be certainly a challenge, and all about making sure you keep it out of the fence and off that green stuff.
Yep, history everywhere. And this is the championship standings for our Pro-Am division. After 7 rounds, heading into the finale, it is a must-win situation for Max Donnelly and Josh Barry. Both of them tied up front on 494 points. Someone's got to finish ahead of someone else. There will be no tiebreaker. It will be first man on the road. But look how close Brody Shepherd, Jeremy Bush, and others are too. It's not only a first to the finish line, but must reach the finish line situation too up the front there. So this is how they're going to start. Brody Shepherd, what a qualifying time there. Sub 9 minutes. It's going to give him the pole position for the standing start from Liam Banks, Nathan Verney, Max Donnelly, Callum Heinrich, and Leon Williams as the top 6.
And you're going to go over the page, and on row 4, it's going to be Tom Hunt and David Leslie with Jeremy Bush and RFL Biggett just in behind them on row 5. Row 6 is going to consist of Craig Kerman and Farron Hancocks with Joshua Barry starting at the back. So he's got a lot of work to do ahead of him if he wants to try and win this championship.
All season long, the story's been the start, the grip off the line from those Audi RS3s. It will be a standing start, and Brody Shepherd and Liam Banks, 2 Hyundais for the front row there. Might not get away so well. It's been a good race car all season. Shaping up for a 6-lap race. Off the starts, it's been the Audis, the ones to watch, and you've got them on row 2 with Nathan Verney and Max Donnelly. 10-second countdown begins. Well, they've got a pretty mammoth endurance race to bring it home and crown a champion. First time in turbo touring cars since we've had all 3 makes. No Hondas on the grid here in the Pro-Am division, but expect to see some later on in the Pro division. Drop the green flag, we get away, and it is your second place man, Liam Banks, not getting such a hot launch. And that lets Nathan Verney immediately get onto the attack, and he's looking to get down the inside to swallow up Brody Shepherd too. So strong launch there. Look for Donnelly round the outside there as well. Turn 1 of a long race, you want to be careful, but for some of the drivers it's a chance to make up some spots.
Absolutely right. Nathan Verney taking full advantage of that, especially with the Audi being very, very strong off the standing start. Donnelly, a little bit of contact beside Liam Banks on the way into the hairpin in the NGK arena, Mercedes arena, sorry. But they've all managed to come away pretty much scot-free, but this is where it starts to get a little bit difficult as they're going to come through the shortcut section before they head onto the Nordschleife.
Yeah, on what's called the Gesamtstrecke VLN layout, where we get the full arena, but then we don't go all the way to the hairpin. We cut it short. Now we're heading back towards the start of the Nordschleife. That was such a great and perfect launch from Verney. Good opening start to the race there. to get himself from third up into first, like we expected was possible. But immediately, Brodie Shepherd getting more temperature into the tyres now. They completed a bit of a Grand Prix lap, and he's looking to get right back on the attack into the fast chicane here. It's not going to happen. And then once they get onto the Nordschleife with the big left turn coming up, it's all a little bit single file through the Hudson-Bach. Then you get some opportunities to overtake a little bit further around.
Yeah, it's going to be a pretty much single file for the first few corners here at least, and everybody's going to want to be a little bit cautious as well in these first few corners of the Nordschleife. So making sure they're going to keep it out of the barrier, get some temp into their tyres, and then by the time they get about halfway around, they should be okay to start really starting to push things. So we'll see what's going to happen here, but this is a very, very good opportunity for the likes of Nathan Verney, who are at the front and leading this train, to really start to form a little bit of a breakaway here, use the technical section of this Nordschleife to really help them move forward.
So mega qualifying lap from Brodie Shepherd means he knows this place pretty well and has some confidence around here, so it's going to take some time to build that up. Max Donnelly, one of those drivers, ambitious into turn number 1, went to go around the outside, picked up some spots from Liam Banks as they approach Flugplatz, and through here he's going to hold on to that spot. High speeds then towards its Schwedenkreuz.
Yeah, very, very fast corner, which you don't want to get wrong or be possibly doing this sort of thing towards, is side-by-side Donnelly and Banks on the way through Schwedenkreuz, and getting sideways, for a matter of fact, into the grass is Liam Banks, and that's going to be the arm coat with a heavy hit.
Oh, big one. Big one at Arenberg. Just too much speed over the top, catching some of that grass, and the Armco is never far away to punish you around this track. Verney manages to hold on to his lead, but with Brodie Shepherd right on him. Max Donnelly, much less pressure and a bit lonely now in third place. Tom Hunt has moved up into fourth with some of the carnage and chaos that we've seen already early on in this one.
Yeah, absolutely. Someone else ending up in the wall as well at Schwedenkreuz. Oh, and I've just seen David Leslie put it in the fence as well, but here's the replay of what happened to Liam Banks in that Hyundai. It's going to come up and over Schwedenkreuz, and it's just going to step out on him. So the front bit on him, and then pretty much that was it. Straight away understeer, and then smack straight into the wall, and that's not gone particularly well. And this is what happened to Hancock. Pretty much, I think the same thing. No, actually, he got it on the way into the braking zone. He was on the road, and then it sort of just let go on him.
I swear I saw in the real 24-hour one time the drivers couldn't get around that section of track.
Oh no,
ice on the
race
road.
leader.
Verney facing the wrong way. Bumpers off the front of the car. Could be some damage there. There's definitely some damage there. That front wheel is not right. And this is what happened. Got Shepherd right in behind him. Got some curved braking zones all through this segment here. So easy to push wide and tag the grass. And that's what's happened. Oh, I've been there. I've done that. I've felt that pain.
So something else has happened to Max Donnelly as well, by the sounds of, a bit wide through the dipper. Oh, that's the Umco, and that may be stop. No, he's actually managed to keep it on going, and it seems to not be all that much, but he's pulled it over to the side just shortly after and towed. So this championship just got completely blown wide open, I think.
Yeah, I mean, early on, I didn't think we were going to have to pull out the calculators, but you've got your equal points leaders, both of them on the tow truck after lap number 1. Josh Barry first to that. Now Max Donnelly, well, third in the points was, fill out the graphic, Brodie Shepherd. He's leading right now. I think Brodie Shepherd is now got the weight on his shoulders potentially. He's leading the way, and I expect would pick up the points lead if you count those eggs a little too early.
Yeah, you're not wrong there. He just, pretty much at this point, he knows he's going to be in contention, possibly, depending on what happens in the rest of the race, but he's just got to keep on going. There's no point risking it at this point if you know both the guys in the championship hunt are now, quote-unquote, out of the race, and you're going to be putting laps on them, possibly.
weird place to find yourself in. 10 seconds clear of Tom Hunt. Got just Bush, Heinrich, Kermond, and Hancock running at the moment. Now I expect, especially the likes of Liam Banks, Max Donnelly, to rejoin this race. But big track, big stakes, and a big toe on the truck if you have a problem.
Yeah, so it's very much...
Josh Barry re-entering the race, missed the start, now half a lap down, entering the race. Where will he be compared to Donnelly? Probably still behind.
Yeah, I would imagine behind, but at the same time, Donnelly's still in the lane, so in theory, he might be able to make something out of this.
Josh Barry has just started the race. Max Donnelly is being towed to the end of lap 1, but there is definitely, the way the points are, a Bradbury situation where you just want to make sure you see that checkered flag at the end of 6 laps. Anything could still happen. So we're looking at a replay here of Nathan Verney. Was leading the race. Thing just pushes out a little wide. You catch that grass and you are not stopping it, not turning it for the left-hander that tightens as it follows. I always feel like you need a rally pro driver when you're learning this place. Tell you, don't cut, into 3 left sharpens, triple caution, stay center, you're braking the car.
It's pretty much exactly like that, because you're bound to hit the wall or some of those curbs in a very awkward way numerous times when you're learning the circuit, especially the number of corners it's got and how long it is as well. That's probably the main thing a lot of people don't actually understand, is there's a lot of corners, but it's also quite long, so it's even worse than you actually anticipate, and it very much does catch almost everybody out. Even seasoned drivers who have done this track many times, it will still catch you out at some point.
Yeah, 24.4 kilometers for this combined VLN layout makes it basically 4 laps of Mount Panorama. It's just shy of that. I think the full 24-hour VLN layout with the longer combined circuit might just be about 4 laps of Mount Panorama for 1 lap here. So, what, like 8 laps of Oran Park for 1 lap here?
It'd be something like that. It's a ridiculous number.
On the Dottingham Hurt, this is for 5th and 6th. Baron Hancock's, who scraped the wall at Arenberg, has kept himself going. He's right in the slipstream of Craig Kermond at the highest speed section of the track, topping past 240 for Farron Hancock's, and he gets some tyres in the grass underneath the bridge, side by side, approaching the Tiergarten. I think Farron Hancock's has to let that one go. The smart manoeuvre there, but I thought it was almost on. Kermond's overcooked the braking zone though, and it's always a great opportunity to then cut back underneath. And you've got the normal Grand Prix layout here to then battle under the brakes in towards turn 1.
I'm not going to lie, I did actually think Hancock's was possibly not going to let that one up, and I did maybe question whether he was actually going to end up making the corner, but he certainly is. He's going to look around the outside now on the way into turn 1, and he's going to sweep that one very easily and grab that one.
Yeah, good stuff. The inside line there on a very tight corner can actually compromise you a little bit. It's that tight, it really squeezes you at the inside, and then the track drops away. It reminds me of what I want to call turn 2 at Austria at the Red Bull Ring, where actually staying just a little wide of the apex is flatter, disrupts the car less, and you can often get the power open earlier. 1 lap of 6 completed. Brodie Shepherd leading this one handily, 3rd in the points coming into this race. But now looking very, very good. With a handy 15, 16 seconds in his pocket. Of course, there's going to be a pit stop required race. There's only a few strategic options there when you only pit, at the end of each of the 6 laps.
Yeah, and the last thing you're going to want to do is try and extend it and then have that awkward moment where you get down about roughly the Dottingham Hoe halfway and you suddenly start coughing. So you're very limited around here as far as what you can do strategy-wise. It requires a lot of fuel saving to get an extra lap or 2, depending on what your fuel situation is like. But I imagine we'll see probably everybody on the lane at exactly the same time for the purpose of the fact that the fuel only goes so far.
So what of all those drivers who went on the tow hook at some point in lap 1? None of them have yet rejoined the race. It's been 8 minutes so far for Liam Banks. He might be the first to emerge if he can. And once they get to pit lane, it's a question of how repairable and how long will anything like that take. So I wonder who and when and how we might see back in this race. Does mean that Tom Hunt is +5 positions into second place and Jeremy Bush +6 into currently running in a podium spot. And while we watch Brody Shepherd run away with this, you got to think it's actually still pretty compact and condensed in that field behind. From Tom Hunt 3 seconds to Jeremy Bush, then only a couple seconds back to this battle between Callum Heinrich and the recovering Farron Hancock. And you can see Kerman just behind them as well. Should Farron Hancock's in the big yellow taxi end up dipping a little bit too much of the grass under braking here. Oh, that's way wide from Heinrich as well. But I think he manages with the warmer tyres to pick it back up again. It looked like he was headed for that Armco on the outside.
Yeah, he certainly wasn't very, very close to the inside of the corner there, and very lucky not to end up in the grass and in the wall, thankfully. So he's going to keep on pushing, but it is very close actually between most of those drivers. I mean, we're looking at seconds apart, but on this sort of track, it's not actually that large. It's very, very easy to lose a large amount of time in pretty much one corner. So it's not going to take much for some of these guys to really get even closer together, especially those that are a bit more spread out. But these two are still continuing to press each other on.
And you never forget, we've got pit stops coming. We've seen past about 20 minutes, you do get noticeable tyre drop off. Not, insane like stock cars on a, medium course, but definitely enough to start affecting the performance. It's not a cliff, but best goes away from them. So who stops early, who stops later, exactly how that plays out could be interesting. Heinrich got a big chunk of the curb on the exit there, and Farron Hancock's getting half back up into fourth. They're closing up ahead of them as well between Bush and Hunt. In fact, Bush has gotten through because that looks like damage on Tom Hunt.
Yeah, it looks like there's a little bit of damage on that Audi. Frame not looking too particularly pleasing, and he's lost it. Oh, that's probably the worst curb you could hit, and he's done, I think, what pretty much anybody does as a result of hitting that curb is fight it into the Armco. Managed to hit it pretty square on, actually, so he might have just only done bodywork damage, but we'll see what's going to happen. But he's certainly going to have a little bit less straight line as a result of that contact.
Well, he turned miss into miss hit, unfortunately, on that one. And here comes Farron Hancock stalking him down. Not a great start. We saw the replay. Farron Hancock's losing it on the cold tyres on lap 1 and running through the outfield, losing a lot of those positions. But looks like someone who's pretty confident with the green hell ever since then, having picked off Kerman and then Heinrich. And, well, the hunt is about to become the prey.
Yeah, he certainly is going to end up being there, especially with the drop in straight line speed. He's only heading
20 Ks.
Yeah, he's got a massive differential. I mean, 210 for the likes of Hancock's and Heinrich, whereas 183 at best for Hunt. And you can just see the differential in straight line. Hancock's just pretty much breezes on by like he's standing still.
Sixth gear is a no-go, forget about it, with that damage that Tom Hunt is carrying, and the steering's not straight either, but he is doing a very sterling job to try to get it around. I'm seeing, I think we have lost Liam Banks, and Banks won't be rejoining. As for everyone else, still remains to be seen, so this one could go down to the wire. Cars all bouncing and bottoming out through the carousel there, and that did not look like a happy place at all for Tom Hunt, as next up is Callum Heinrich. Can't defend here and probably shouldn't with that much damage either, and Heinrich is next past. Has he gone and... Oh no, he's still got his L plates. I was wondering if maybe he passed his practical, but no, still L plates on the Hyundai. Not an uncommon sight in many places around Australia.
fair assumption. It's not quite the optimal way to exit the carousel, and especially not in these things. You would have bottomed the thing out real bad and onto the grass and having to nearly hit the wall in the process.
Car won't turn left, and it's a result of all of the damage at the front right there. Start to turn it into the left. The weight goes onto the tyre that might even be down. Has Barry complete his first lap, and that is enough to put him up into 7th.
And showing his 12th on the standings for the sim.
by
And
the
he's
end of
only
this
on
lap.
lap 1 as well. So if Donnelly doesn't leave the pit lane in a lap, he should be able to move up a few more places.
Oh, Tom Hunt really nursing that thing back around again. Got across some grass and some gravel, and this will be a bit of a lap to forget. Even with Barry back in this race, potentially gaining some spots, got to get that calculator out, because if there's still a 6th place on offer for Josh Barry, that gets a lot closer to holding on to enough points to stop the Shepherd charge. I was going to say, let's think strategy for Brodie Shepherd here, but with 30 seconds lead, I think he can stop this lap, the next lap, or the lap after, and it's not going to make a gigantic difference. I'm thinking, end of lap 3, so still another lap from now, we'll be cutting the race in half, and probably the optimal way to go with the tyres.
Yeah, I imagine that's probably how he's going to run it. He might go one more lap, depending on what the fuel situation is, but we'll wait and see what happens when he comes by the start-finish gantry next time by. No one else is really pitted though, so I imagine probably everybody going to sort of run a similar strategy as that. Is a bit sideways from Jeremy Bush.
Such an interesting braking zone there at Tiergarten, because track just feels like it narrows up on you, because you go from absolutely flat out and then down the hill, and it just sort of snakes one way and then tightens up the other way and then tightens up the other way, like a tightening slalom, as you try to brush off some of the speed but not all of the speed, but still got to get rid of enough of it as you then approach for the slow chicane at the end. Tom Hunt has finally brought that back around to the pit lane.
Now this will be interesting to see whether how much damage he's actually got to that thing, because we saw what happened to the likes of Donnelly in that, and they're still sitting there for quite some time, and it wasn't necessarily even big hits either that they had.
I mean, if he's lucky, the most of the damage will actually just be a puncture to the front right tyre, which of course, super duper replaceable. He's got to do that anyway. Everyone's got to do that anyway. But if it's the suspension, and I think the steering not being straight is some of the suspension, body panel shouldn't be too hard. So we'll see. There's definitely still some hope there. Max Donnelly might rejoin the action. 15 minutes on pit lane. And I think he's going to come back out in 6th place. Does that count as his compulsory stop?
That is actually a very good question. I don't know, because it depends on if he took tyres or not. I think he did, but I don't think he did either.
It's return to the walking wounded. That pit exit's super busy now. Nathan Verney also back in the race after 16 minutes. David Leslie back in the race after 16 minutes 40. Okay, look, that car's not a picture of health for David Leslie, but think about it. He's still half a lap ahead of Josh Barry, for example.
Yeah, he actually is, and Barry's still on his first complete with 1 lap completed only as well. So everybody ahead of him still has an extra lap completed, so he might be in a little bit of trouble here.
All those drivers rejoining the race, not actually what Josh Barry wanted. Rather selfishly, it's kind of what I wanted. But for Barry, who was hoping, okay, if everyone's a retirement and I can sneak to 5th or 6th, I could still be on here. But with 3, maybe 4 cars, no, Liam Banks isn't going to rejoin. So at least 3 cars back in this one might be in trouble.
Yeah, could very, very well be in trouble. And bear in mind that we've still got a reasonable amount of racing left, so there's still anything could possibly happen out of nowhere that's unexpected. So they've still got to keep on going, and they really can't afford to have another moment, especially if you're someone like Max Donnelly or one of those guys that has just come out.
So maybe it bears reminding ourselves of the championship situation as they came in. Max Donnelly and Josh Barry tied on points. Well, Josh Barry is running around in 12th, almost a whole lap down, almost 15 minutes off the lead. But he is running. Max Donnelly rejoined the race. He's running in 7th. Brody Shepherd was pretty damn close. Only 8 points adrift. Now he's leading this race with a handful of cars between himself and Max Donnelly. This is one for getting the calculator out.
Yeah, it's very much going to depend on what happens as far as Shepherd's concerned. If he can get the bonus points, he might be able to have an influence, but it's very, very close, and it's almost...
Well, he got pole.
Yeah.
His last couple laps have all counted, so no off tracks there. What other bonus points are there? It's no incidents in pole, right?
Fastest lap, if I'm not mistaken. So,
well, I dare say he's got fastest lap pretty well locked down as well. At the moment, his fastest lap of 9:02 is a measly 13 seconds faster than the next fastest lap by Jeremy Bush.
yeah, so he's going to get...
Barry or someone else could take it though, but we saw that the 2 seconds or more that Shepherd had in qualifying to take pole.
Yeah, you're not wrong. But it'll be interesting to see what happens. I think, yeah, it's definitely a calculator situation.
And it really is Shepherd versus the track in that situation too, isn't it? To keep it between the white lines, keep it off the curbs, keep it 0 incidents, but then also might need to hot lap a little bit at one point to protect that fastest lap if he's got a hope at this championship. I think after that damage and limp mode we saw from Tom Hunt, he's back out after 4 minutes of repairs. So for Max Donnelly, he's hoping that Craig Kermond doesn't rejoin the race, but I think Kermond just might.
Yeah, he might just do it. I'd think, based on the tow time. Donnelly's still... Hunt is back out, I should say. I'm just coming onto the Nordschleife, so...
Something about the front right's not 100% perfect.
Yeah, I was going to say
My goodness, is that better?
Yeah, that front end's definitely better, but the front right still doesn't look quite straight.
Where are the hands on board? He's got a nice little crinkle in the front right there as well.
Yeah, that's still a bit offset, I'd say.
Looking over the shoulder when he's not
turning
in the Hudson back. I'll have a better idea for you. It's straighter.
little bit of offset.
Well, he got to 6th gear, so that makes a bit of a change from before as well. What kind of speed might he achieve here? He's currently doing 200. He's maxing out at 180 with all that damage. Now downhill, 225, 230, 233. Straight line speed's good enough that without a slipstream, he's almost hitting the limiter in 6th there. So that aspect is definitely back to business as usual.
Yeah, he's at least going to have some form of defense in a straight line now with that damage being repaired. Still a little bit offset, so he might struggle a little bit through the corners, but in the straight line he's at least going to be somewhat back to normal.
Halfway point of the race, we're about to approach. 3 laps down, 3 to go for Brody Shepherd. Is he going to take this opportunity to pit? No, it's going to go just at least 1 lap longer. Indefatigable Jay Kennedy has a calculator out on the championship situation. And what's he going to tell us? As they run at the moment, Brody Shepherd, enough places clear with enough bonuses that he would pass Max Donnelly in the final race of the final round to take the Season 7 championship for Pro-Am, the way Shepherd is running at the moment. Now, Donnelly's about to pass Kermond for 1 spot. Jeremy Bush from 2nd is going to pit at the halfway point. Farron Hancock's from 3rd is going to pit at the halfway point.
So if you deciding to make their pit stops, Heinrich decided
a little undecided.
Nearly ended up like the...
Do I need to bring out my Okayama rant again? I think I do, Callum Heinrich. Look, David's not angry, he's just a little disappointed.
I was going to say, he actually was very lucky that he ended up finally making the call, otherwise he could have very well ended up like, I want to say, I can't actually remember the name.
It was a BMW?
Yeah, I was going to say a BMW
bonnet up?
24, yes.
Famous moment. Yeah, look, you sit on the fence, you might get splinters. You sit on that fence, you'll get Armco railing. Shepherd's backed it off just a little bit potentially because his best lap was a 9:02. That last was a 9:06.
Yeah, so deciding that he's not really needing to push at this point, possibly as well limited by the tyres maybe as well, just dropping off a bit, so it's going to be, we'll see what happens, but I'd say he's decided, he's at the point where probably doesn't really need to bother putting caution to the wind and pushing on too hard. As Kerman's just come out.
Yeah,
behind.
He's come out, but it's behind Max Donnelly and Nathan Burney. So Donnelly did just pass. We're actually in this. Does Max Donnelly's end of lap 1 pit stop from the tow hook count as the compulsory stop / does he make it to the end on fuel there? Because it could actually matter with the distance between Donnelly and Craig Kerman. Oh, and for Joshua Barry, his championship hopes have just slid to a halt out on track.
Yeah, he's ended up in an unfortunate place. He's not quite taken the name Miss Hit Miss. He's instead decided hit.
So past Cullen Hard. High side it a little bit on the curb on the exit, why not? And it's this quick flick back that's been catching people out. A shallowish entry to the triple apexes here, and it's too much speed, catches some of the grass, and he steals Tony Hawk's rail grind there and grinds to a halt.
So unfortunately, Barry effectively out of the championship hunt now, sadly, as much as he probably wanted to win it and with how close it was as well. But sadly, mistakes like that aren't going to win you championships anytime soon.
Bernie
As
on
Bernie
board.
nearly in the fence.
Just after Sabina Schmidt's curve entering. Oh my god, I said it earlier. That part of the track, the real twisty, squiggly bit, you know the one. It's again one of those sections where the track curves one way a little bit. You've got to get rid of a little bit of speed, but then it bends back sharply the other way. So if you're getting too hot, you can get spat out the far side of the circuit. He just caught enough of the grass and managed to save it, but that would have been hard in mouth. Would have seen all of his points flash before his eyes.
Yes, certainly a change of race wear there with that sort of situation. He's very lucky, as usually.
That's why you wear the triple layer Nomex.
This is true.
Still closing up though. I think Bernie is in a little bit more of a less to lose situation here than Max Donnelly, but if he's got someone feeding him the same information that we've got, Max Donnelly would also realize he's kind of got nothing to lose at this point as well. 2, potentially 4 points shy of race leading Brodie Shepherd. Needs to be able to catch Tom Hunt, needs to not let Vernie pass him. Far up below. A long way to Tom Hunt.
Yeah, Hunt is just coming through turn 1 on the Grand Prix section, so it's a very, very big ask there.
It's like 5 minutes.
Yeah,
Not Greg Murphy spec. Oh, what's going on here? A bit slow for Max Donnelly. Defending the inside, potentially after miss. Misses the apex down the bottom there. And Nathan Vernie is going to catch him up. Donnelly needs 5th place to take the championship. He's in 6th and he's maybe about to lose it.
Yeah, and what's actually concerning is, as far as I can see, Donnelly's car actually looks like it's in better shape body-wise than Vernie's. Vernie's is very, very crumpled in on the front end, whereas Donnelly's is not. So possibly some damage that hasn't been fixed on Donnelly's car that we might not know about, something maybe suspension related, but it's certainly not helping him at all at this stage.
Don't know if it was his driving style. Well, for one, he's missing the passenger side mirror. So that's, 2 kilometers an hour gained for Donnelly. But the thing has looked pretty pushy, pretty understeery into some of these sections here. He's had to really back it up early, and then it hasn't turned in. And you've seen Nathan Vernie almost look to cut back underneath. That big Craig Kermond on the right-hand side of your screen. And again, been there, again, done that. YouTube corner, well, one of them. Bites again, that's Adnal Forst. He's ripped his bumper off. Again, another place you can just get tricked into carrying too much speed, and each subsequent corner into the complex just gets tighter and tighter and tighter. Shepherd is coming towards the end of his 4th lap. Only driver in the field yet to go through pit lane. A slightly ungraceful exit from the famous carousel for Nathan Vernie there, as he still tries to pursue Max Donnelly. Now, as for who's making it to the end on fuel and who has quote-unquote cleared their compulsory pit stop, that is an entirely different can of worms, particularly from Max Donnelly on back, so including Vernie, David Leslie, Leon Williams, etc.
Vernie still hasn't actually managed to get the pass on Donnelly here. He's close, but he just hasn't quite been able to make it happen, as Shepherd has finally come down onto the lane as well, so he's finally going to make his stop. I'm wondering if Fernie is maybe waiting to the dotting to hoe here.
Or he's playing with his food because they're 7 minutes behind the next car. Look at this again on the exit. The car just doesn't turn, it starts to wash out for Donnelly, and he missed like all 4 apexes at Vipperman just a couple corners ago. The tyre's gone. Is it maybe the front right that's giving him some grief there?
Not entirely sure. He only has 2 laps to do as well at this point, so not really much longer, but also still a reasonable amount of time he's got to keep behind that locked on car.
Shepherd out of the pits. Yeah, again, just not getting it to the apex there, and to the little carousel. Ooh, braking very early for Vernie, but then he still gets to hook that banking that's so important all the way around the high side. Max Donnelly holds on to it. I think they're having a little game here. For Brody Shepherd, he's out from his pit stop, and he is a mammoth 95 seconds clear. Bush in second place. Down the dotting hill, what are we going to see? I've got an all-time speed trap record of equal 239 for both of these cars. Here comes Vernie.
Pulls out from the draft to the right-hand side of the road. And it's going to be a drag race of who's not the slowest down the Dottingham on the way down towards the final section. Donnelly's going to have the inside for the kink, but if Vernie can hold on, he's just going to get on by. It looks like Donnelly just gave it to him as well, deciding to just lift out and play it safe rather than try and battle that one. So Vernie gets that position off him, not what Donnelly will have wanted for his championship, but we'll see what might happen these final 2 laps.
Not going to pretend like I'm going to be shocked if we see either of these cars on pit lane for a second time, just based on the fuel mileage at the end of this one.
Yeah, definitely wouldn't be surprised if they have to bring it down to get some fuel for at least 1 lap to the checkered flag.
Because they... Hang on. Okay, they both are a lap down to race leader Brody Shepherd. And then towed the first lap. So they've got to do a 4-lap run. Actually, I think they'll have the fuel then in that circumstance where they complete 5 total laps and got towed to the end of lap 1.
Yeah, you might be right. And Shepherd did 4 full laps as well, so they should be okay, although with damage that might hinder them a little bit, but we'll have to wait and see. But you'd have to think that it's not drastically affecting the fuel mileage to the point where they're not going to be able to get to the end.
No, so it just all comes down to, did they take the compulsory tyre change, which I can't see why they wouldn't have.
Yep.
I was about to call out last lap 9:11.5 for Brody Shepherd, but that was his in lap, wasn't it? He's on his out lap now, so really, of 6 laps in this race, only 3 of them are properly representative, because there's the first lap of the race from a standing start, there's the in lap, and the out lap, and then leaves you with 3 left that actually tell any of a story. So you see, lap 1 would have been from that standing start, where he did lose out and then fight back, remember? And then lap 2 is currently the fastest lap of the race, and it's still not even close, 13 seconds faster than Bush. Then you saw that pace dip a little bit on lap 3, like I said. And then lap 4, of course, was the in lap from the out lap now, and then you have one final lap next time at the line.
Yeah, so he just needs to keep on soldering on at this stage, and so does everybody else, really. And if all else fails, he'll just need to hope that everybody else makes a mistake, or at least one person makes a mistake at this point.
So it's Banks out, Donnelly in 7th, Brody Shepherd leading the way, and Farron Hancock's has certainly been his share of excitement. Bit of a spill on lap 1, dropped to the back of the field of the running cars, and then made a bunch of passes. Is he faster than Jeremy Bush, and is he fast enough to hunt down 2nd place? He was a second slower last lap. But I'm a never say die kind of guy.
We got a second up as well on this lap, so it's by all means still pushing, not letting off at all as he drops 2 wheels into the grass there, so certainly isn't leaving anything on the table as far as track limits go.
One of the things that might have gotten him into a bit of trouble earlier on. It's just catching a bit too much of that grass. He's got good straight line speed. I mean, he's picked up some slipstreams here and there, etc. But 243 kilometers an hour, which I count as booking it, compared to 241 for Jeremy Bush.
So definitely a difference in straight line speed there, which is quite interesting.
That particular camera operator has been enjoying some schnapps a little bit too much. So you see Farron Hancock's navigate the famous carousel, and I've been hearing everyone scraping on the concrete there. Again, it kind of bears repeating. Fixed setup here in the Pro-Am division, but it'll be open setup when we get to the pros, their race coming up after this. So do they run a little higher? Do they run a little lower? Do they run the springs stiffer? At least on the rear, maybe on the front not. He's missed Vipperman at the 2nd apex, but he gets the 3rd and the 4th. That's one of my favourite corners, really fast through there, and you've got to time it and get the rhythm just right.
Yeah, it's certainly a very, very cool section of road. This final sector and that one before as well, it's just generally very, very nice to drive because it's all flowing and requires so much commitment in some regard, because you've got to get through the corner as quickly as you can, but at the same time there's not a lot of room for error, so you've got to be very aware of where the bumps are and what the curbs are going to do to you if you do hit them.
Get a little bit of air in a sector here. Yeah, get your pictures there. Now, Leon Williams, how is he running? 9th. He's made another donation to the Armco gods. They've been very, very busy. Well, he's going, but what happened to him? I think that's the exit of miss, hit, miss again. That's not necessarily where you expect to make the highlight reels, but he has gone hit, miss, hit. Well, I think he's gone hit, miss, boop on that one.
Yeah, and limping it back now as a result of that contact with the barrier. Doesn't look too bad from the exterior shots, so might have just got away with it, but
Brody
certainly
Shepherd
not ideal.
has got destiny in his hands. He took pole position. He started this race third in the championship. If he can bring home this one more lap, he can steal the crown at the last possible opportunity for the Pro-Am division of Ozicar Turbo Touring Cars in Season 7. 53 seconds to Jeremy Bush. It's him versus the track to seal his own destiny and take his own crown. This is second place man from 9th on the grid to running in second, and it just goes to show that this has been a pretty difficult race for everyone, and qualifying not all it's made out to be at the Nordschleife.
Yeah, certainly been a race of attrition, and one that certainly has proven that qualifying doesn't really mean much when you get to the Nurburgring. It doesn't matter what car you're in, it's always going to be about what your race pace is like and how well you can keep it on the black stuff and out of the Armco barriers.
It's 24.4 kilometers still to go for these guys as they see the white flag. Well, they should be. Has Barney got it? Oh, it's not an oval circle to some of the other tracks where Barney gets a little more animated. But it is definitely, indubitably, the final lap because it's scheduled for 6, and we're starting the 6th lap. 9 minutes 10 from Farron Hancock's. Now, it didn't count because he cut the track somewhere. And the lap still counts, but it's not going to be his fastest lap. That's pretty good. In fact, it's pretty much what Brody Shepherd had been kind of doing on his less push laps. So Hancock's on this final lap could reel in Jeremy Bush a little bit. Both of them pitted at the end of lap 3. Both of them have the same age tyres going on. If it was 1 lap later for Hancock's, I suspect that could have played a difference towards the end here. This is going on 8 by 6. Trying to do numbers in my head, and that never ever works. But it will be more than 50 minutes of racing. And it is 15 to 20 minutes when those tyres start to give up. So both stints, drivers that have managed their tyres a little bit will have a bit more pace towards the end.
Yeah, you're definitely not wrong. It looks like also Donnelly and Verney have stayed out, so no pit stop required for them to get on home, so they're good for fuel and I presume tyres as well. Might be a post-race investigation possibly on that, but we'll have to wait and see. You'd have to think that they have taken tyres, but didn't look like it in their stops, and that is a slightly beaten up Audi in the form of David Leslie.
It's going. Craig Kerman, Liam Banks, Josh Barry are not. So we'll stay ahead of them. What do you think Brody Shepherd is thinking at the moment? I want to put to you, he might not know if he's doing enough. I mean, he's obviously given everything at every opportunity. Pole position, making the passes when he didn't get the launch off the line, fastest lap of the race, leading big time right now. Fastest lap points, 0 incident points, everything. He's done it. Still, tough question when you're behind the wheel trying to drive the Nordschleife to work out. Is that enough when Donnelly is in 7th and Barry has parked it?
Yeah, it's certainly an answer he more than likely isn't going to know until he crosses the line, to be honest, because he's probably focusing on driving the track rather than worrying about anything else. If he's done the numbers in his head, he may or may not know at this present stage, but he's just got to keep on going and not put it in the fence at this stage. He's just so close to victory. He's pretty much got one hand on the trophy if everything goes to plan.
Someone get that camera operator to a meeting. But the gap is coming down, Bush to Hancock's. I wonder if there's, tyre worries, maybe even fuel worries for Jeremy Bush here. Whatever the circumstance, I think if he stays calm, he can probably hold on a second. It is a big ask to claw back that much time on the final lap. But still.
Yep, never say never. It's possible that he could get there in the end. It's not exactly a big gap either, is 5 seconds around here. It's very, very easy to make up 5 seconds if you're pushing hard enough.
It's 4 Bathists. That's what I'm saying.
He's actually got him in his sight visually now, so it's hard to tell. That number is coming down, and they've still got pretty much half the track to go, so he might do it.
I wouldn't be brave enough to tell you he couldn't. Elsewhere, the next closest cars together is Nathan Verney in 6th and Max Donnelly in 7th, but I don't think Donnelly's going to be able to catch back up to Verney, who we saw pass him earlier. So that's out to 14 seconds now. Quite a dramatic pace difference that might suggest that when Donnelly got back out on track, the car wasn't perfectly, completely repaired.
Yeah, based on the lack of pace, it wouldn't surprise me if that is indeed the case, where he's still walking wounded a little bit.
His best lap was last lap, and that was a 9:18. So I'd say there's, wherever it's missing, however it's missing, probably about 10 seconds a lap going begging there. Farah and Hancock will not be dissuaded from still trying to hunt down Jeremy Bush here. But the numbers get less and less in his favour. You know who the actual closest cars on the track is Callum Heinrich and Nathan Verney, who are together in the carousel but a lap apart, as Verney is a lap down to his teammate Callum Heinrich, but lapping faster.
Yeah, that's always a little awkward when your teammate behind you is not on the same lap, but is actually quicker. I want to say you
multi-21 Callum.
I was about to say might be a bit of team orders going on here, but might also just sit behind for a little bit longer. I'd almost say you wouldn't even need to pass because Donnelly's too far back at this stage.
If you know anything about Locked On, is that there's no order whatsoever in that team. Just disorder. But it's one last braking zone on the lap for Brodie Shepherd. Long run down the Dottinghua complete. Underneath the bridge he goes towards the Tiergarten and towards the checkered flag at the end of his season finale. Hangs the tail out just a little bit. That's how these front-wheel drive cars race. Onto the Grand Prix straight. We'll be looking for the end of this one. And you know what? He knows he's won the race, but I think he knows he's done enough to take the championship in Season 7 for Pro-Am as well.
Yeah, I think he more than likely might know at this stage at least.
A little bit too much bounce in his step on that one. If he knows that he won the race but came up 2 points short of the championship, that's a totally different body language.
Yeah, we'll see what race control says based on the points. It's very, very close.
Still looking at the remaining cars to the finish. Jeremy Bush might just escape Farron Hancock despite that gap dwindling and dwindling and dwindling. it's ahead at the end that matters. And this looks like it's going to be our podium.
Yeah, it looks like it's gonna be the case with Hancock's being the final car on the podium.
First time a Hyundai's won Ozicar turbo touring cars. I mean, it's his first season, but it's the first time it's won. And that is the end of the championship and the end of that car and the end of the race. For Farron Hancock's. And Heinrich in the Hyundai in fourth. He's coming around his buddy Nathan Vernon, who's sixth and a lap behind.
Did actually wonder if he was maybe off.
He
Nearly
always
had a
rear-ended
go.
him. That'll be the end of what probably felt like a long race. For Callum Heinrich and Nathan Verney, they're going to stage a little bit of a photo finish. Probably slightly more graceful one than Farron Hancock's managed. And here's Max Donnelly, equal in points at the top of the table at the start of this race. Lap 1 didn't go his way. He finishes 7th and loses that grip on the championship. And he'll finish 2nd in the points. A long final lap here when you've got cars dispersed all around it. 10 minutes or so from that checkered flag waving, we might still have the likes of David Leslie and Leon Williams crawling around. But for Tom Hunt in 5th, everyone in front of him has seen the checkered flag. Everyone behind him is a lap down and won't be able to pass him. Once Leslie crosses the line in 8th, all the spots are locked in because Hunt and Leon Williams can't lose or gain on their final laps.
Yeah, so it looks like Leslie is going to be the final finisher by the looks of it.
Now, I know our replay machine's a little bit stretched, but Tom Hunt did miss out on the banking and the carousel, popped out in the middle and then pretended like nothing happened and tried to jump back in. So he's struggling around on that final lap. But like I said, everyone in front of him's already seen the checkered flag. Everyone behind him already likewise a lap down. Not going to be able to take that one away from him. So I feel pretty confident saying we could look at the results shortly. The carousel for Tom Hunt on his final lap. A lot of speed. Doesn't stick it. Oh, almost out.
Actually surprised he didn't actually completely fall out of it, to be honest, with the fact he was right on the edge of the road. But fair to say it was a pretty sick Tony Hawk grind.
You can hear it. Makes a noise as they all go through there. This is how it's going to eventually get set in concrete. Brodie Shepherd with the win, with the championship, with the fastest lap, set on the final lap of the race to a 9:01.4. He wanted to make sure he got that, and he'll be 6 points or so clear of Donnelly, we think. There's Jeremy Bush and Farron Hancock who completed that podium. Callum Heinrich. Tom Hunt still bringing that thing around towards the checkered flag, but you can see Verney, Donnelly, David Leslie, Leon Williams, all already locked in through to 9th. And then the retirements were Craig Kermond, Liam Banks, and Josh Barry.
Yeah, so a lot of victims claimed, unfortunately, in the final round for the Pro-Ams.
Tom Hunt is singing on the radio as he waits to bring the end of this race, and there's only him out there for a couple minutes. He wasn't quite smooth operator or other tunes moving up and down side to side like a roller coaster that you might hear on the car comms, but he sees the checkered flag. That's the end of the season for the Pro-Am split of Ozicar Turbo Touring cars. New damage model, ladies and gentlemen.
Good demonstration.
Well, got a couple of people standing by. In fact, we probably could have been talking to them already if I'd been on the ball. Got... Why not Jeremy Bush? Second place finisher, 7 positions gained. It is a type of hell here at the Green Hell.
It is, yes. I was just trying to survive tonight. Couldn't get a quality lap in, got in a bit late to the session. So, yeah, my plan was just to survive and not crash out in the first lap.
Well, there was a 50-50 coin flip on that one. It seems lap 1 claimed plenty of victims. How were the cold tyres once you got out onto the Nordschleife for the first time on that first lap?
It wasn't too bad for me. I was fairly conservative, so I wasn't pushing too hard. Without all the practice that the other guys had, I was just, as I said, just trying to stay out of trouble. And watching everyone else just capitulate in front of me.
Rewards you with a second place, 4th in the points coming into this one. Might even have picked up a spot or so, but we had some really, really competitive names across both divisions, including this Pro-Am division right from the start. You're in the top 10 in the points. You might even be in the top 3. That's a season well run.
Yeah, my first time running these, I've had a great time. Learned heaps about the car, about driving these front wheel drives. I'll definitely be back next season. I think Brady and Max, we're clear front runners in this comp, and even Josh. Shame he couldn't race the full race out tonight. But it's all been fairly clean racing in our group, so I really appreciate it.
Good to hear from you. Thank you, and looking to see plenty more of you in the future.
Yeah, fingers crossed I can make it back. Yeah, thanks guys.
Well, Cam, we've got Max Donnelly equal in the points going into this one, and it hasn't quite wrapped up how he would have hoped.
No, definitely not. I was looking forward to the Nurburgring being a nice chill race, but yeah, about halfway through that first lap, it didn't end well. So, but hey, it's not the result I wanted. But hey, we'll just have to see what the points add up like.
Yeah, absolutely. It's certainly been a very, very mixed bag of results as far as the season concerned, with the championship being open pretty much all season long, with how many different results everybody sort of had across the season. Has it been a season you've been happy with, or do you think there was maybe room for improvement?
I think there's a bit of both, because sometimes really happy with good results in the top 5 or so. But then the others, they're just mistakes that I need to learn from. So, yeah, it's all a learning curve. It's my first time in these TCR cars. So, yeah, it's all been a big learning curve for me.
Well, nevertheless, can we expect you back for any future seasons with your possible pace that we saw tonight?
Oh, absolutely. I'm expecting to enter another season of Ozicar Turbo Touring cars. And yeah, just hoping to get better results.
Well, before we let you go, just any thanks and any shout-outs?
Oh yeah, just like to say a quick thanks to Brayton and Caleb from NZSR. They've been on my back all the way, been there for support. So yeah, I just want to thank those guys.
Well, there you have it, David. Reasonably happy. Max looks like it is confirmed to be second in the championship, unfortunately, so not quite going to be the championship, but hopefully it's going to be a bit better of a run next season.
Cool, thank you very much.
Well, he was the best placed Audi, think about it that way, because our champion joins us, Brody Shepherd. Congratulations, just making the Nurburgring your home today.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it was a good race, kept it clean. Didn't think it was going to go that way. I crashed it in on my first lap in quali, but it turned out well. So
Fastest lap of the race on the last lap there, picking up the bonus points, picking up the win, and grabbing that championship right at the end.
yeah, I'm not sure how that last lap was fastest. I nearly crashed it about 3 times and had 2 wheels in the dirt for part of the lap. So, but yeah, it's good to win the championship. It was a hard battle. Everyone here was really quick, so it was great, good fun racing, everyone.
Been reliably informed if you're not scared, you're not going fast enough. So maybe that was the secret sauce right there. Once again, Hyundai's getting mugged off the standing starts, but then by the end of that first lap, you'd gained all the ground back.
Yeah, I had a really horrible start. I got a bit of wheel spin, and then yeah, the Audis are just really quick off the line and got swamped into the first corner and thought I was going to end up 4th or something off that out of the first corner, but managed to come through in 2nd and then just plodded along for the rest of the race.
And last couple of thoughts here as we get geared up to head towards the Pro Division race. We saw almost everyone else look to make their stop after lap 3. How touch and go was the fuel or the tyres or anything going to the end of lap 4 like you chose to do?
Because we were in the fixed setup, the fuel was alright. The tyres didn't feel too bad at the end of the 3rd lap. That still felt a little bit off. In all honesty, I kind of drove past the pit lane and forgot to pit. So that's why it went a lap longer, but it still felt good going that lap longer and had the good tyres for the last lap to get that fastest lap.
We'll set your alarm for 24.4 kilometres later to make sure you remember it. That one would have been an embarrassing way to throw it away and throw away the championship, but it is yours. You are the Season 8 Pro-Am Division Champ. Congrats.
Thanks, it was a good series and good fun battling everyone.
Well, I reckon a good chance of a Season 9.
Yeah, I'll definitely be back for next season. Try and compete with some of the guys in the Pro Series as well and try and see if I can beat them and win the whole thing overall next time.
Look forward to seeing you around. Thank you.
Cheers, thanks.
Cam, that was just half of the action that we have in store tonight. An interesting Pro-Am Championship, maybe slightly underdog winner from 3rd in those points to grab the championship. But in not too long, the pros are going to come along.
Yeah, absolutely. It's another race and another 50-minute enduro ahead of us with the pro drivers. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. The championship yet to be decided in that as well. So it's going to be all on in this last race.
We'll take a little break, but we're just 10 minutes away from gridding, maybe even less, for the Pro Division, and they're also going to tackle a 6-lap race and decide a champion in Ozicar Turbo Touring Car Series here on SimSpeed TV. Shout outs, of course, to Prestige Trophy, Badge and Engraving, Locked on iRacing Podcast, and Sim Racing Leagues. Stick with us, just moments away from the Pro Division race.
This is iRacing, the world's premier online racing game. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat to experience today's newest form of competitive motorsport, virtual racing, all from your home PC. Race virtually in endorsed series from NASCAR, IndyCar, IMSA, the World of Outlaws, Aussie Supercars and more. Take on legendary circuits like Daytona, Silverstone and the Nurburgring. Join iRacing's global online racing community and get on track today at iRacing.com.
And we're back. Qualifying about to wrap up and get underway for the final race of the night. It's the 6-lap race for the Pro Championship to decide the winner there. Season 8 of Ozicar Turbo Touring Cars. Well, just like it was for the previous division. Look, wrap up what happened from the first race, which is Brody Shepherd ends up champion, 590 points from Max Donnelly, Josh Barry, Jeremy Bush, Farron Hancock, Nathan Verney, Tom Hunt, David Leslie, Callum Heinrich, and Craig Kermond. And this is the stage, how it's set for the final race of the Pro Championship. Daniel Yeaman, 9 points clear of Ryan O'Sullivan, who has been mighty quick when he's been on the ball. Then just 2 points clear of Mitch Dean, 3 points clear of Braden Martin, 1 point clear of Matthew Brunt. It is still many drivers in play here. It's Tim Harris, Reese Gardner, Nathan Norman, Ashley Norman, and Tim Court as the top 10 in the championship standings with one race still to go. They are ready to grid up. They are ready to go racing. Same format as before. 6 laps, compulsory pit stop. It's Marty Turner on the pole from Yeaman, O'Sullivan, Gardner, Tim Harris, Wilkinson. Take a look at that. Second and third on the grid. Your championship contenders starting right next to each other. Then you've got Ashley Norman, Nick Wood, Alex McKellar, Dale Sharp, Mitch Dean, Alex John. And he was the last driver with a qualifying time. And so got Tim Cornt without a qualifying time, but if we saw anything from the earlier race and the earlier division cam, that qualifying might not matter quite as much as you think.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's going to be all about survival here, making sure you keep it out of the wall and making sure you end up keeping it on the black stuff and pointing in the right direction as well. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see what this race is going to hold in terms of who ends up in the fence, who ends up winning, who ends up losing, and what the championship decision is going to end up being.
Can we get... Well, no, there's a Honda in the field there somewhere, right? It's a very, very Hyundai looking front row here. Marty Turner on the pole. Yeaman and O'Sullivan second and third on the grid. First and second in the points. Mitch Dean third in the points finds himself starting all the way back in 11th. Expect to see pit stops towards the end of laps 3 and 4, except for damage earlier on. Bit of turbo whistle about as they're all waiting, about to get the starters' orders. Nick Wood, 4 cars back on the inside. The highest placed Audi. Again, look for a great start out of them. Look for the lights on. Revs rising. Last race of the season for turbo touring cars. A championship on the line at the Nordschleife. Not a great launch from your pole sitter. Bogged down. Marty Turner cedes the lead immediately to Daniel Yeaman. Ryan O'Sullivan moving through. Reese Gardner going to get sandwiched in the middle if he's not careful. And tentative on the cold tyres into the very sharp turn number 1. Dan Yeaman takes the race lead. And Marty Turner dropping back 2 spots in third place here. They're side by side a bit further back. I think he's got Tim Harris looking down the inside of Tom Wilkinson. Wilco holding it around the outside to get the inside for the next section, but not able to pick up the power as it's Hyundai versus Hyundai.
Yeah, Wilkinson has to concede at that position, and he'll slot in behind Harris, as there's a little bit of a gap to Reese Gardner, who's right on the tail of Marty Turner as well. And then you've got those two at the front, Yeaman and O'Sullivan. Yeaman's done a really, really good job to actually get a very solid start and first lap, and so is O'Sullivan, really.
Yeah, not a whole lot of change there so far, but they're yet to hit the Nordschleife, just completing the Grand Prix section of the combined layout here. Mitch Dean 2 spots gained, Alex McKellar 2 spots back. And then, of course, Marty Turner dropping from the lead back into third here. With a quick chicane they go. Well, that's probably going to be no 0 incident bonus points for Tom Wilkinson.
I think that's a slowdown, actually, by the looks of it. This could be
he's immediately under pressure as they head through Sabina Schmidt's curve and towards the German-named Twisty Bits. Oh, Alex McKellar, has he also got a slowdown there? He's had to drop back big time. Has he got any damage on there as well? Alex McKellar almost coming to a halt. He is last. He is essentially putting it on the tow truck too. Up front though at the lead. Great launch from Dan Yeaman. Got him that race lead in towards turn number 1. He's not been able to shake Ryan O'Sullivan. He's in his slipstream as they head up towards the floodplats for the first time on lap number 1.
They've actually broken away nicely from Marty Turner and Reese Gardner have those top 2 at the moment and continuing to do it as well. So those two pretty much in a class of their own at this stage, and probably going to be, I'd say, for the rest of the race with how much pace and how much gap they've pulled already in less than a quarter of a lap as O'Sullivan poked the nose out, thought about a move on the way into Shredding's Coits, but doesn't quite get it done.
Well, that was the scene of where the fireworks kind of started in the Pro-Am split. Marty Turner's under a lot of pressure with Reese Gardner all over the back of him. Turner just not getting the car, ironically, turned in particularly well at the floodplats, washed out from the second apex, hurt his momentum. O'Sullivan's got big momentum. You can't pass here though.
Yeah, surely.
A whole heap of curb with those cold tyres, but then cut back. He's taking wide entry, shallow exit, looking over under, keeping the pressure on Yeaman through this section of corners. Almost starting to bring Marty Turner, Reese Gardner and Tim Harris back into this one as well.
Yeah, so they're starting to bring Tim Harris into this a little bit. They haven't actually been fighting, so Harris seemingly has some decent pace under him. Once the now that the tyres have a little bit of temperature in them, they're starting to reel in those 4 in front. But I do have to wonder if maybe there's going to be a little bit of fuel saving going on here between these top 4 as well, knowing how competitive they are and knowing the fact that there's not a lot in it between them all.
I think all the fuel drop they could desire gets covered in the about 24 seconds to change the tyres, but I'm not dead certain on that one.
I should know the answer to that, but I can't confirm either.
Yeaman struggling with the fronts a little bit there. At the bottom of the hill, washed out to get out of the throttle, rode up on the curb, rides up on the curb on the exit there as well. And you've got your front runners starting to compress a little bit. Some high speed running through this section of the track here. It's going to bring the slipstream in. Now you're through the louder links towards... How have I forgotten half of these corner names that I used to know? But then it's flat out from the section here. And then the next section up through Cullenhard? No, Cullenhard's a different one. I have the big dumb today. Marty Turner's hooked himself up to the slipstream here though. You see O'Sullivan really closing in on Yeaman. Marty Turner, Reese Gardner and Tim Harris not missing out. Top 5 breakaway, early goings at Bravery Corner. O'Sullivan is exactly that. You've got to be all the way alongside there. Not a huge braking zone. Yeaman will hold on to the lead. And Yeaman, think Hareth 97. Yeaman has the points lead. It's O'Sullivan's to lose.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It is indeed O'Sullivan's to lose at this stage. And Yeaman will be very
Adelaide 94. If they both
that.
crash out, it's Yeaman who gets the championship. Now, I actually rate our stewards a little more highly than that, but it is Yeaman with the points lead. O'Sullivan needs to calculate his risk, so does Yeaman.
Yeah, they both need to be very smart here. No need to throw caution to the wind or do anything silly here, especially Yeaman with the fact he's got the points lead. So he just needs to be smart and precise, needs to just put some nice, clean, consistent laps in all race long. If he can get the bonus point for the 0x, he'll be a happy man, as that'll help that championship lead ever so slightly more.
One of the few places around the track you can ride up on those curbs in these cars through Vipperman. Quick change of direction here, and this is where the slipstream matters less. And the flow and the driver confidence matters a lot more. The corners keep coming, and Yeaman out wide there has to roll out the throttle to get back to the left-hand side to open that up. There's a problem deeper in the field between Mitch Dean and Alex John. Mitch Dean, remember, was third in the points. Now it looks like he's either going to be out or almost a lap down.
Yeah, not quite sure what's actually happened there, but it has started through Mitch Dean doing that to himself by the looks of it, so it's not what he will have wanted at all, and unfortunately Alex John, an innocent bystander in that, really.
Mitch Dean got Nick Wood behind him through this section. Oh, that's Vipperman, that's too hot, that's too wide. Bounces off the Armco. Not a great night then so far for Top Split TV. Technical problems for Alex McKellar. Alex John unable to avoid stricken Mitch Dean. This is back up front as they go through Kleiner's Carousel. Again, leaping out of the banking with great speed and flair and momentum, but it's the next section of track up here, the long, flat-out run on the Dottinghua. You just might see Ryan O'Sullivan's best chance to get his nose in front.
Yeah, draft going to be very, very important for O'Sullivan here. Is he going to decide to sit in behind, or is he going to decide to push and give it a red hot go? He's closing, he pulls out in the slipstream. He is alongside now on the way down the Dottinghua. And I'd say that pass is going to be completed. It is. Yeaman has to slot in back behind, but is Yeaman going to get the secondary draft on the way down towards that final squiggly bit? He looks to the outside. O'Sullivan decides to go there. And in the end, Yeaman not going to be leading the end of lap one, and instead it's going to be in O'Sullivan's hands.
And the real winner is Racing as they're 3 wide, a little bit further back behind Ashley Norman here. Wilkinson and Wood, and Wilkinson gets 1 spot before they then have to close up on the brakes through here. So all that top 4 also with that huge slipstream down the Dottinghua close up to sub 1 second. Yeaman's looking for the lead back as they start lap 2 of 6. He's down the inside. Reese Gardner's down the inside of Turner as well. And Yeaman pushes out a little wide at the first apex, going to try to cut back into the lead as the track goes to the left. Yeaman back to the lead.
Yeah, there's a little bit of contact between O'Sullivan and Yeaman there on the exit of turn 1. I don't really think there was much Yeaman or O'Sullivan really could have done there, but either way, we'll keep racing. There's an onboard replay of it. You can see O'Sullivan going wide and Yeaman even slightly wider, and Yeaman's ended up being there on the inside. So, yeah, not quite sure what else they could have done.
I think lap 2 in touring car racing, that's about what you expect. I don't know, they're racing like both of them want to win a championship today. But Tim Harris just staying in touch here as well. He missed out on that slipstream on the Dottinghua, which I think hurt him pretty badly. It is, at this level, all about staying with the pack until those pit stops. For the GP circuit for the second time, and cutting back onto the Nordschleife. Race control asking Dan Yeaman to redress Ryan Sullivan, the race lead, after the contact in turn 1. Not quite how I necessarily saw it, but it is what it is. And do you know what this is going to do? It's going to close up the leaders. It's going to close this pack up.
It's really going to close them up, and Yeaman's going to have some decent pace as well. So once that redress is done, he's going to want to try and get a move on as quickly as he possibly can. He probably will want to try and not lose position to Reese Gardner if he can, but he might do so, and as a result, he's going to be compromised, and Reese Gardner's going to have momentum here on the way up to full Platz. And he's going to end up slowing him behind O'Sullivan, so he hasn't actually lost any momentum at all. And he's going to slot in behind O'Sullivan, but Gardner is not too far behind and looking very racy.
The Southpaw race is right in there now. So is Marty Turner. There's a 2.5 seconds. Turner to Harris. Harris wishing he's a little bit closer. Slipstream here is pretty strong because they go downhill after Flugplatz, pick up a lot of speed, and that exponential aero drag as the speed increases over Schwedenkreuz that upset a lot of the cars on the cold tyres on lap number 1. Everyone's got it back underneath themselves with lap number 2. Underneath the bridge, and it's 4 cars for the lead, but 0.7 seconds to cover all of them. The redress has caused that.
It certainly has caused that. I'm surprised that Harris has actually dropped off the back of this pack as well so much. So ends up being a 4-car trainer, although he's not too far behind is Tim Harris, so he's going to try and close that gap down as best as he can. Meanwhile, slightly further back, Don Wilkinson and Wood going at it for 7th and 8th. Wilkinson catching up to Ashley Norman as well, so good to quickly see this battle turn into the battle for 6th very, very shortly.
That's the double U's between Wilkinson and Wood. Whoa, all up over the curb in a place you probably don't want to with Dan Yeaman. As they then back down towards a quick change of direction here into Miss Hit Miss. You need to get the line just perfectly there to catch the crown of the road in the camber, and you can carry speed as long as you get it right. There's the miss, there's the hit, and there's the miss. Dale Sharp has had a problem though. Oh, this is uphill, it's a blind corner. He gets wide, he gets the grass, and then it just tightens up. The Armco closes in, claustrophobic feeling.
I was going to say it's not quite as bad as what one of the GT3s, if I'm not mistaken, did one year in the 24-hour, but certainly still very, very solid impact, and as a result he's had to tow back to pit lane. I think it's going to be fair to say that O'Sullivan is not backing down, and nor is Yeaman, as he's very, very close to the back of O'Sullivan, all the way down through the back end of the circuit, and just sitting in behind, looking to try and make a move, but he's not quite got enough steam behind him to manage to make that happen. He's going to head up towards Bravery Corner, and he's not quite going to be close enough to have a look up the inside. Reece Gardner tucked right up behind Yeaman as well, so these three, I should say four, with the fact that Marty Turner is right up behind Reece Gardner's tail as well, all single file, all very, very close to each other, and all it's going to take is one mistake from these guys to have something happen, and for them to possibly lose 4 positions out of it as a result, because Tim Harris is right back on to the tail of this train. That is the top 5 battle.
Yeah, what's Tim Harris's music? Because it's playing right now. He has caught them as they battle amongst each other. The train only goes as fast as the lead locomotive, while the drives behind get to close in on the slipstream. We're approaching the part of the track though where that does change as they really work their way through Wipperman and Ice Curve and Brunchen, etc., towards the Flants Gardens. It's Norman, Wilkinson and Wood, the 3 cars that are off that 5-way battle for the lead, that are now closing up on each other because Wilkinson has caught Norman. Nick Wood still going along with that. Plenty of fight to happen in this one. In the corners here, I think Reece Gardner's just starting to drop the top 2 a little bit.
Yeah, seems Gardner's strong in the sort of, I guess, first half and first quarter of the lap, and especially on the Grand Prix circuit, but in this final section he's not quite as strong. It's almost as though he gets to the carousel and then doesn't quite have the car underneath him to be able to keep up with the leaders, so he's dropped a little bit of time, but might be able to catch back up in the next lap or so. But those front 2 certainly very, very quick at the moment, running the sort of lap times they are. They're actually pretty much a second quicker than the rest of the field, including those behind them who did have a slight tow as well.
Masterclass with Stefan Belloff, S6 gear, big speed as they then come in towards Schwelgenschwanz and the little carousel. Carrying mega speed through all these multi-apex complexes is really the sign of how hard they're pushing, the way it flows one into the other through those S's towards Schwanz. And then I think if you're O'Sullivan, there's no way to go through this corner that doesn't see you under fire down the Dottinghur. 0.8 from Yeaman to Gardner. Tim Harris has had a problem. Lost some time, so he's no longer in this fight. Here they go for the lead. As expected, Yeaman's able to get level and hold that. Sullivan, as you can see, Ryan O'Sullivan desperately trying to get back into the slipstream, cuts back underneath, but there's not the momentum or the space to get back around, is there? They're too wide under the bridge. Reece Gardner's hunting them both. Marty Turner with him as well, side by side for the lead, side by side for the championship as they break into Tiergarten.
Oh, here
it's
comes Gardner.
O'Sullivan who blinks first, and it almost gets Reece Gardner to pass in there. Surprising to me.
I'm actually surprised that someone backed off as much as he did, to be honest. Really, I think caught everybody off guard, including Reece Gardner, who ended up nearly being able to make a move around the outside on the way into the final sector. So he was very, very lucky there, and he's going to have the inside for turn 1 as well. What's going to happen here? Possible contact? Is it going to be a deja vu for Ryan O'Sullivan of the previous lap? No, it is not. So thankfully, no contact there, and Reece Gardner is going to be on the outside here on the way into the Mercedes arena. Is he going to manage to not quite hold it? Nearly did, but not quite in the end, and as a result, is to concede the position to Ryan O'Sullivan. But Marty Turner still looming in 4th place. He's got the pace, but doesn't quite at the same time.
Well, you'd love to see that happening in your mirror if you're Dan Yeaman, to see 2nd and 3rd going side by side through the arena section. Now, Wilkinson's dropped back. Remember, he was the one who caught Ashley Norman. Now Nick Wood's gotten past him, presumably on the Dottinghur and the pit straight towards turn 1. So Norman still holds on to his 6th, and Wood is the winner against Wilkinson. No one pitted at the end of that lap. In theory, they could have and made it to the end on fuel, etc. But I don't think you were going to gain much, particularly in the top 4, top 5. So we can see how Nick Wood did it.
Yeah, the virtual races could replay.
A help from Ashley Norman there, honestly. Nick Wood gets to the right-hand side of the track, and Ashley Norman says, you can have the slipstream, and pulls Nick Wood up in front. So that was handy.
Wilkinson nearly held it around the outside, but so to slot behind it at the following corner into the Mercedes arena. So being a little bit safe here is Tom Wilkinson, not really in any sort of championship fight at all, so just trying to get out there and try and get some team points for the Drop Bear Motorsport crew. And Reece Gardner is again dropped off the back of this lead train for some reason. He's seemingly not quite able to keep up with these two at the front, who have sort of separated a little bit, but it's very, very strange what's possibly going on with that Fusion Sim Racing car at the moment.
Well, at least on lap 1, when I was paying attention, he was good through Flugplatz there, and it looked good again. Good enough to stay with O'Sullivan. It isn't quite, because O'Sullivan gets smaller in front of him as O'Sullivan closed in on Yeaman in the slipstream there. So it's touch and go to stick with the leaders, which absolutely you'd want to do, and then he's wide at Ironburg.
So possibly Reece Gardner has maybe overheated those tyres that he's got on, or maybe he just has a setup that doesn't quite work underneath him at the moment. So and do a little bit of struggling at this current point, about halfway through this race. So he doesn't have much too long to wait before he can put some new tyres on and possibly make a tyre pressure adjustment or two, maybe to try and bring some balance back to the race car when he makes his pit stop.
The part of the track that caught out Nathan Verney in the earlier race. Oh, and it's caught out Reece Gardner, slides across the grass, loses 3rd place. Luckily, keeps it out of the wall, got in too hot there. And we didn't see it because of that drunk cameraman. be fair, the camping around that part of the track does look pretty good. So there's probably a party or two happening. Oh, he's gone quite deep into the next section of corners as well. Has he maybe cooked the front tyres? Here's how it starts. Wide across the grass. Hippity hoppity. That apex is my problem. Now he's in the wall. Oh, he's in the wall. That's part of the track. It's all gone south quite quickly.
Yeah, it's unfortunately gone Southpaw Racer. Wasn't particularly a big hit to the wall there for the race, so he might have just got away with that. Maybe a little bit of scratching or scraping on the right hand side, but we'll see what it was like on board with the Virtual Racing School replay.
Misses one corner, misses the apex at the next corner, and then the immediate next section of track. Too hot in here. Just as he has he got like a problem with these pedals maybe? Norman's also grazing the barrier, and that's going to let Nick Wood and Tom Wilkinson past. Everyone was so clean early on, and now they're losing their heads as the tyres start to wear out. Look at Ryan O'Sullivan mowing the grass there as he tries to maintain his pursuit of Dan Gaiman for the lead. This is not going to be a boring end to this race. And for a lot of these drivers, this could be their in-lap as well. We could be about to see those pit stops kick off.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what pit strategy these sort of guys do, whether they decide to pit on this lap or whether they just go as long as they can. Saw Shepherd in the previous race decide to just go as long as he possibly can, albeit it was a own mistake rather than pitting on a lap earlier, but it's not a strategy that's completely a dud in the water. Might come in handy if you're someone like Daniel Gaiman or maybe even Ryan O'Sullivan and you want to try and have some fresher tyres for later in the race on that very last lap.
Is there any merit to being Ryan O'Sullivan and just doing the opposite of whatever Yeaman does? Or do you want to stay with him and fight him down the Dottinghua on the last lap? Which one do you think is your best shot at the race win and potentially the championship?
I think it depends on whether he's losing time or not in comparison to his clean air lap times. That's probably the main one. I mean, the gap that's been between the two of them hasn't really been all that big, but at the same time, none of them have really been backing off per se. They've both been pushing quite hard this entire race so far. So yeah, that's definitely a hard one. I think it's just going to come down to whether he's quicker in clean air or not compared to what he's been running over the course of the last 3 laps, really. And I'm sure he'll be monitoring his delta compared of what he's been running in clean air compared to what he's been running in traffic here as to whether it's going to be worth it or not.
How about that track temperature too, though? Up at 40 Celsius. That, I think, makes running 4 laps look less enticing because you are going to start really just pushing them too long.
Yeah, that's a very, very valid point, actually, is that with the hot track, it's going to degrade and overheat the tyres a lot quicker. We're going to get a Virtual Racing School replay of the letting by of Reese Garden, and Reese gets right out into the dirt on the way down Flatsgarten.
So down the Dottinghua, they do battle once again for the race lead. And who is thinking about that pit lane at the end of the straight? It's 0.45 seconds. It's 0.4. It's 0.35. It's 0.3. It's 2.5 tenths. It's 2 tenths. Ryan O'Sullivan, huge head of steam down the straight. Pulls out to the left-hand side and is going to take the race lead away here critically as they come towards the opening of the pit stop window. He's got himself a whole car length in front of Dan Yeaman. Doesn't have to yield this time as they work their way through the S's into the big braking zone for the chicane at the end. Perfect line there, but it might not matter if you're not going down the pit straight. Dan Yeaman is pushing Ryan O'Sullivan into the pit entry. Has to brake a little bit earlier. Both of them from the lead into the pits. Marty Turner carries on. Reese Gardner, Tim Harris in, and I hate that pit lane alarm.
Certainly not quite as exciting as the old whistles, I must say. I do find it fascinating though that they've both coming at the same time. I guess it makes sense based on the fact that they're racing each other, but also something that I don't think anyone's really talked about or thought about for that matter, is O'Sullivan's made a move there on that lap where he was at a distance on the way onto the Dottingaho where he can utilise that on his very, very last lap if he times it right, and he's still stopped in his box as well.
There's a race off of pit lane. It has not gone the way of Ryan O'Sullivan. He's still there in his pit box. Dan Yeaman released, Reese Gardner released, Tim Harris released. What could this be for? Is it?
I want to say speeding, but it didn't even look like he was speeding that much. Like, the amount of time he was, I guess, over the speed limit wasn't, I wouldn't think long enough, but it could have very well been.
His championship hopes crumble before his eyes because Reese Gardner, Tim Harris, Nick Wood, Tom Wilkinson, Ashley Norman all pass him, and he loses 30-40 seconds. Reese Gardner and Tim Harris, it pays to note, have also lost touch of Dan Yeaman. Marty Turner, the only driver to try to go 4 laps in this opening stint, will have to pit at the end of this lap. Wilkinson and Norman doing battle on the Grand Prix circuit on their cold front tyres on their out lap.
Confirmation.
Speeding on pit lane for Ryan O'Sullivan that proves very, very costly.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'd say that's the race one, and more than likely the championship gone up in smoke, unfortunately, for Ryan O'Sullivan. He'll be pretty dark with himself about that to make a very, very small but easy to make error there. But that said, focusing on the racing, this will be interesting to see where Marty Turner comes out in relation to everybody else going the extra lap as well, and what possible advantage he might have.
I mean, if it's a slow tyre warm-up, going that lap longer could work, but I don't think it's going to be at 40 Celsius and this really, really long lap. By the time you're about here, they should be back in form. And up towards Flugplatz as we ride on board with Ashley Norman in 7th. Tom Wilkinson right in front of him. Ryan O'Sullivan 6 seconds behind these guys is probably going to catch them unless... Oh, I saw my life flash before my eyes there for Norman. I thought he was going to catch that grass on the outside and go straight into the wall. He managed to catch it. Not a quick run through there. Cold tyres still obviously in effect because that thing did not turn how he was expecting.
Quite round the corner how he hoped, and as a result running a little bit wide, so he's just going to be a little bit careful here, a little bit wide there as well on the way through, and going to still be on the tail of Wilkinson, so hasn't lost a massive amount of time.
I'm watching the gap between Turner and Yeaman start to creep back in Dan Yeaman's favour, so I don't think going longer is helping out Marty Turner as much as he would have hoped, but he can still fight for that second and that third with Gardner and Harris when it all shakes out. This Ryan O'Sullivan just in the back a shot. Nick Wood got the sad puppy dog ears as he's dropping one of the mirrors.
Mistake there from Wilkinson as well And it's allowed Norman to close right up.
Towards a favourite miss, hit, miss. Wide entry there for Wilkinson. Norman playing hit, hit, hit. Just keeping it glued to the right-hand side of the track. Oh, all out of shape, breaking downhill for Tom Wilkinson. Somehow catches it. Somehow keeps the position. That car was half a degree of yaw away from facing completely the wrong way.
Yeah, very, very lucky to get away with that one was Tom. After what could have been a very, very quickly turned sour moment.
That was, in fact, right out sideways.
And another mistake there from Wilkinson as well, but just touching the inside curb. Now Norman looking left and right, having to go the long way around.
Tough to go side by side, flat out here. It could probably be doable in cars like these, but not optimal. They must have rubbed just a little bit, and if you find yourself with the grass, the Armco is right there too. So an attempted a pass up the top of the hill here at the Bravery corner. Don't think Norman's got enough momentum. You can see Wilkinson staying just to the left-hand side of the track as they climb the hill. Still not looking completely comfortable. You can't go too wide here. And they won't. To the carousel. Very, very follow the leader if ever any part of the track was. Do you know who's right in behind them now? He's caught the big time horrible exit from Wilkinson. Checks up Norman. Ryan O'Sullivan looking for 2 for 1. Part of the track where you just can't pass. They're too wide in front. Wilkinson has to yield. O'Sullivan throws his nose in. Track goes left next. O'Sullivan gets one spot at a place that you rarely see passing in equal machinery.
Yeah, it was very, very risky there, but managed to make it happen and get the job done. Didn't quite get 2 for 1, but he's going to set up Ashley Norman to try and get this one done before the dotting a hole. He might wait just so he can get the draft and get it done cleanly and not have to worry about him being drafted back.
Send it at Brunchen. That's the next right-hander coming up here. No, not enough of a braking zone, not close enough. Even for the brave or the stupid.
I did think he might have been able to do it at the following corner, but he just dropped 2 wheels in the dirt, and unfortunately he was not able to capitalise on that.
To the foxhole then. Keep the car to the right-hand side. Open up the left-hander, keep it flat. Track drops away and you can get some airtime just here towards Flansgarten. I tell you what, if you're close, you can actually pass into Schwalbenschwanz, but then you are now so close to the Dottinger Hoher, and they're starting to really drop Wilkinson there. Marty Turner from the lead has to pit by necessity, and that will cleanse the field, as we say. Now you just got to be patient, wait it out. If you're Ryan O'Sullivan, so close, but there's no sense and no use in passing for the straight here to just immediately be passed back again.
Pull out from the draft is O'Sullivan, and bear in mind, I was going to say Wilkinson was going to be close enough, but he's dropped off the back and unfortunately not going to be a threat to either of these two. And O'Sullivan's got that window well and truly, but Norman might be able to come back here with the gap that he's got. And Marty Turner out of the lane. He's coming up behind Yeaman.
Come out second.
Of Gardner.
Yeah, so he's ahead of Reece Gardner and Tim Harris. Ryan O'Sullivan is going to hold on to that spot that he just picked off as they approach the Tiergarten. Dan Yeaman, 2 laps to go, sitting out front, 7 seconds clear of Turner, who's still got to go through that tyre warm-up phase, but will have fresher boots come the final lap. I don't think Norman is close enough here in towards the big stop, downhill into the hairpin at turn 1. Tim Harris has closed in on Reece Gardner. Norman's still in the slipstream of Ryan O'Sullivan. Next target for O'Sullivan is Nick Wood for 5th, and that's only about a second. So that'll be his probably primary aim for this lap. Gaining bucket loads of time through the opening sector of the GP circuit.
Yeah,
Wood is struggling.
I was going to say, with the way he's going, he'll probably get this pass done before he even gets onto the Nordschleife. He'll probably do it, well, not quite before the Beswick chicane, but it will certainly happen before they get onto the Nordschleife.
I was like, who's Beswick? But then I realised what you mean is Nick Wood goes wide through the kink and O'Sullivan's going to take that. Norman will want a piece of this too, but Nick Wood cuts back across in front of him. What series does Eddie Beswick race in? I'm going to name that chicane after him now. Jay might know who I'm talking about. So Ryan O'Sullivan sails off into the sunset and says, you guys enjoy your little fight. Nick Wood, though, really, really under pressure. I think Norman looks to have heaps more speed. Is there damage on the front right there? Has he, is that the source of the dramas here for Nick Wood? He's lost the mirror that was dangling earlier. And he's punched in the bodywork, and there could be suspension damage.
Yeah, there definitely is suspension damage. There's a bit of right hand down. So I'd say he's down on straight line and probably cornering ability as well. So I'm actually kind of surprised that Norman hasn't gotten by earlier, but I'd say it's fair to say that there's probably a move on coming on the way into Sweden's Kreuz, as Woods is going to move over. Norman's going to slip up the inside and get that one done.
High stakes at this part of the track, but Wood might also be missing some straight line speed there. Norman up into 6th. Reece Gardner with his warm tyres has been able to catch Marty Turner up at 2nd place and hook onto the slipstream there. By that final lap, Turner will have the newer tyres. That's an interesting battle. That is an interesting battle.
Yeah, that's certainly going to be fascinating to see what's going to happen there, as to whether Reece is going to be able to give Marty something to worry about in this final 1.5 laps, or whether he's not quite going to have the tyres underneath him, as Dale Sharp finally comes out of the lane, and that is quite the pit stop, I must admit. Probably an engine change, I'd say, based on that time.
Yeah. What hasn't been changed in 27 minutes 40 seconds?
Probably the roll cage, I'd say. As a casual observation.
Cut out the compliance plate, welded into a whole new car. Carry over the rego. 1.5 laps to go. White flag next time they cross onto the GP circuit. Yeaman leads 8.7 seconds from Marty Turner. It's in the crosshairs of Reece Gardner. The Southpaw racer managed to get within a second of Turner earlier on in this lap. He just dropped out of it, as I think Turner is bringing up the pace and bringing up the pressure. Gets a huge slipstream uphill towards the highest point of the circuit. Right here, though, so I wouldn't count out. Yeah, Gardner's got an extra 2 kilometers an hour, not the most slipstream you ever get, but it's still possible. Norman grazes the arm coat, but that's what everyone's been doing all day. So he's going to carry on in 6th. Look at Tim Harris. Just the stalking all race so far. Just out of reach of your podium places.
Yes, he's thereabouts. Not quite able to capitalize for some reason. He's just not quite got the strengths that Riscana and also Marty Turner have. But he's doing enough at this stage to at least be able to capitalize on if someone makes a mistake or they start fighting ahead as well. So he's just got to keep on soldiering on at this stage. He's going to get at least the top 5 with the way things are going, regardless of what may happen at this stage, as long as he does put it in the wall, of course. But we'll see what happens as Rick's going right up over the curbs there. And that looks like Tim Cornt in the lane as well. Something has happened there for him. It's a little bit too quick, and that's the guardrail.
Yeah, just too much speed to ever make that. That is ouchy and a lot of damage for Tim Cornt. I tell you who's having an utterly atrocious race, though. Braden Martin. Not even on the grid for the finale.
Yeah, it's definitely the worst way you could be having a race, is just not be out there at all.
4th in the points coming into this one. He's going to definitely lose out to Tim Harris, Reece Gardner. Maybe not Tim Cornt now that's happened. I've got to assume he was driving through Adelaide, and then when he got home, that immediately put him to sleep. Oh, as Southpaw Racer pops out of the little carousel and has a big incident. He's grazed the arm code. Tim Harris is going to catch up, and how much damage has Reece Gardner got after just being a little too ambitious with the little carousel? So easily done. Again, name a corner here. I've crashed there. You know, it's banked. It invites you to carry some speed in and hook the apex. And every time you do, you think, oh, I could have carried a little more speed there and ridden that banking until eventually you carry just too much speed and it spits you out like that, and you have a pretty big accident every time.
Yeah, usually is the case when that sort of thing happens, when you get to the limit and you end up a little bit beyond it. Looks like Reece got away with it. Doesn't look like there's any visible damage, both suspension and bodywork wise, so might be okay here.
As they come to the start of the final lap of the Pro Division of Ozicar Turbo Touring Car Championship for Season 7. Daniel Yeaman leads the way. Gap steady to Marty Turner in 2nd. He'll be on the podium. Has Gardner dented his pride or his confidence, or also his car with that? It has let Tim Harris catch him. A lap to go. I think Ryan O'Sullivan in 5th, with that penalty for speeding on pit lane, is just too far back. And then you've got that bunch, as you can see on the timing tower, of Wood, Norman, and Wilkinson. Wood potentially carrying some damage, but I think Norman might have picked up some as well with a graze on the arm code. A lot could still happen on this final lap, but Dan Yeaman, he's looking at a championship if he can just see that checkered flag.
Yeah, just needs to pretty much cruise on home at this stage. He's got the gap behind him. Marty Turner probably got the tyres up to temperature now and pressure, so we've got to push on, but I don't see him closing that gap down quickly enough to make inroads and get a possible win on the board over Daniel Yeaman. Meanwhile, this battle back here between Harris and Gardner, all to play for, I'd say. There's certainly nothing to be ruled out with how close these two are at the moment.
Plenty of opportunity left if you're Tim Harris. Hold behind through the Hudson back here. Get a good slipstream up towards Flugplatz, or after Flugplatz towards Arenberg, or up the hill towards the Bravery Corner, or just about anywhere up to and including that braking zone into the Tiergarten at the end of the Dottingerhöhe on the final lap. Plenty of race has been decided like that. Gardner still throwing it in pretty hot to that early part of the Hatson back there and skating the rear tyres out. Those rear tyres have been on since the very beginning of this race, several hundred kilometres ago. 5 by 25, 125, 130. They've done about 130 k's an hour, 130 kilometres by about this point.
Yeah, so had some decent mileage, I'd say. Probably not quite enough to put on a road car because it's a short trip in Australia.
If you start in Ipswich, that's just far enough to get you out of Ipswich. Slipstream closes Tim Harris up towards Schwedenkreuz across the crest, and then Arenberg along right. Plenty of banking here as well, and then underneath the bridge. Not close enough to strike. I think I called something else the foxhole earlier. It's actually this part at the bottom of the hill here that's Fuchsrohr. And then moving up towards Adnauer Forst. Bottom of the hill there, they get plenty of speed on. 240 k's an hour for Tim Harris.
This is a decent pace for Tim Harris in that locked-on machine. The way up towards Adnauer Forst, but not quite enough to make a pass at this stage. Probably being a little bit patient here. He knows it's the last lap, so I'd have to think you'd just sit behind Rhys Gardner at this stage if you're Tim Harris and just pretty much wait till the Dottingerhöhe. Obviously, don't want to lose too much time through all the windy bits, but just got to keep on soldiering on and just keep pushing until that very last stretch of road.
In your ideal world, you get a great run onto the Dottingerhöhe, 0.5 of a second behind the guy in front. You close up, you slingshot past, and then there's not time for them to take it back. If you're any further back than that, you're not feeling comfortable. If you're any closer, then it gives the opportunity for them to play some games with you, or try to back you up, or try to slingshot past and do the leapfrog 1-2-1-2 down the Dottingerhöhe. Exactly the same situation at play here for Wood and Norman. Both of them nursing just a little bit of damage. Nick Wood nursing just a little more damage now after that.
Yeah, very, very lucky to get away with that one.
Was he called Nick Wood? That car is clearly Nick Titanium or something else sturdy. It's still going. It'll take him to the end of this one.
Only just at the stage at least, unless he doesn't put it in, well, so long as he doesn't put it in the wall, it will, but it'll be only just if he does.
You only need both mirrors if you're looking at what's behind you. Tim Harris is maybe even closer than he needs to be, looking to the left-hand side up towards Bravery Curve. Thinks better of it. Just needs to stay in touch here. Is Yeaman slow, or is Marty Turner flying? Because that gap is shrinking and shrunk quite quickly in the next couple of sectors. It's still shrinking.
Yeah, it's actually started to close up quite a bit, actually. It's hard to tell, but yeah, it's very, very hard to tell, but I wonder if maybe Yeaman's got a problem. Maybe fuel? Because he's not pushing as hard at all, and Marty Turner is absolutely closing up.
Only just stabilized in that sector, but he was losing like half a second per sector so far in this lap. Still got a lot of time in hand and not a lot of lap left. Keep an eye on that one, or maybe he just backed it off to be careful. Reece Gardner can't back off, but he does need to be careful, and Tim Harris needs to stay right where he is for that potentially famous last lap move. In fact, he almost needs to be a bit closer. This is the part that I thought Gardner didn't look as strong in the opening laps. This part from about the carousel all the way around to Flansgarten, just the continuous medium speed corners, changes of direction, blind apexes. And Tim Harris has made him pay through this part, just 3/10 back. Gap is stabilised between first and second.
Yeah, so maybe Yeaman just maybe making some mistakes or backing it off for a few corners. It's, yeah, not entirely sure what's happened there, but he's on his way to victory. He's got only a handful of corners left and he will be home free, but he's still got to cross that finish line on this lap, otherwise might be in some issues.
Got some good news to bring you at the end of this race, so stay with us. It's good news for Dan Yeaman as he goes down the Dottingham for the last time. Championship leader coming into this race. Did not start on pole position. That went to Marty Turner. Fought his way through. Fight indeed he had to do. Nailed the pit stop just right at the right time. He's looking for a championship. Nick Wood's just gotten himself in front of Ashley Norman. The battle between Gardner and Tim Harris is going to be hot. This will go down to the final lap for everyone. They're on the Dottingham. Reece Gardner in front. Huge amount of overspeed for Tim Harris. Shoots by in the right-hand lane. Gardner, what are you going to do? Do you have any fight left in you as they go underneath the Bill Stein Bridge? Tough to pass here. Dan Yeaman, no one's going to catch him. He's going to take the race win. He's going to take the championship for Season 7 of Ozicar Turbo Touring Cars Pro Division. Marty Turner completes the podium. Tim Harris move on the Dottingham on the final lap. He's probably going to hold on to complete that podium. Reece Gardner just on the outside looking in. Really competitive stuff in this pro split for the final race.
Yeah,
it's not done yet.
Yeah, it's certainly not over yet between Nick Wood and Ashley Norman on the way down the Dottingham. Nick Wood pulls back in behind on the uphill section. It's going to be very close. He might not have enough to get there. Is closing slightly. Not quite going to be able to make a move though. Even if he tried, it would be a little bit more than a Hail Mary and runs a little bit wide for good measure as well. So unfortunately, he's not quite going to be able to get P6 in the end. We'll have to settle for 7th as Ashley Norman is going to take that off him in the end.
Ryan O'Sullivan finished 5th, just ahead of these guys, 6th and 7th. Ashley Norman actually picking up a slowdown penalty somewhere at the end of the lap there. Got Tom Wilkinson coming to the checkered flag, and the last driver who's going to need to do that is Dale Sharp. So Yeaman found the handbrake in that one. What kind of skids is he attempting to rip in the arena?
Currently none at the moment. He's trying to create one, but he's not doing a great. Oh, here we go. So his teammate in the form of Tom Wilkinson has showed up to do a photo finish, and well, that wasn't a great one. Burnout Dan.
There he was, crossing the checkered flag. The old reverse gear, or I mean,
You'd have to think these things were more than power enough. I think I think it's fair to say we need to give him a session with Shane Van Gisbergen at a one Noel Motorplex on how to do burnouts based on that effort.
Lamar's got the KFC drive-through. This place needs some Macca's trays before he's ever gonna kick that thing out sideways. But he deserved to give it a shot because he took the race win 7 seconds clear of Marty Turner, and that gave Dan Yeaman the championship. Tim Harris, third, beating out Reese Gardner in their duel down the Dottinghua on lap 6. Ryan O'Sullivan lost 40 seconds to that pit lane penalty. Finishes 45 off Yeaman. He would have been right in there. Absolutely, without that just little crucial mistake at a really painful time. And then it was Norman, Wood, Wilkinson, Tim Cornt, and Dale Sharp. Retirements with technical problems for Alex McKellar and Mitch Dean and Alex John also retiring. Cam, before we speak to our drivers after season 7, gives us the great pleasure to be able to announce Ozicar Turbo Touring Car Series Season 8 coming up. Be 6 rounds with Silverstone National, Brands Hatch Indy, Donington National, Alton Park International, Snetterton 200, and Knock Hill International. Some pretty tight, compact, almost bordering on club level circuits there. It'd be great for these style of cars and the way they race.
Yeah, it's certainly giving off some British Touring Car Championship vibes, that one, with all the British tracks and ironically all tracks that British touring cars go to. So yeah, looking forward to seeing what the sort of racing is going to be produced. We've seen these things around the likes of Snetterton and I believe Donington and Brands Hatch as well before in Ozicar. So looking forward to seeing what's going to happen with the introduction of the rest of the manufacturers. Obviously back then we only had the Audi, so we'll be very, very fascinated to see what's going to end up happening as far as who gets crowned a champion and what sort of racing.
We'll have Mr. Ozicar Ira Felberg in later on to talk to us about Season 8. But we've got business to wrap up here at the Nurburgring. That includes talking to third place man Tim Harris. Battle between yourself and Reese right at the end, and there's always so much strategy with that long straight right at the end of the lap.
Yeah, look, that battle was really going on most of the race in various sort of forms and guises, I guess. I think probably Reese was maybe a bit harder on his tyres, might have had a bit more camber than me. So his sort of first lap after the pit, he definitely had a bit more pace, but I noticed it really sort of fell off towards the end of the 3-lap stints that we were doing. So look, I sort of was just biding my time, and he made a couple of bobbles. I got in front of him a bit earlier, and then I got a slow down. So after that, I was like, you know what? I was almost really thinking about just letting Reese go on that final straight because he had earned it. But I just couldn't take my foot off that accelerator pedal. So here we are.
Why is your nickname Katie? And only tell us if the story is G-rated.
Look, it's boringly G-rated. Obviously, we've got Tim Court, part of the Locked On Lads. We've got a myriad of other Timbos and Tims of various shapes, forms and sizes over there on the Locked On Lads Discord. And we're calling out Tim, and I'm going, yeah, and they weren't talking to me. So it was at that point that Wilco decided to give me a name. That name was Katie, and I found a picture of a Katie, and that's me for Discord.
There you go. I think you could write a song about a boy named Katie.
I'm open to give it a shot. You know, like anything can happen on a night like tonight, can't it? So,
well, congratulations to you. A great battle there around a really, really tough track, and seeing out this championship. And there's maybe a bit more to come.
Yeah, we'll see what's going to happen in the next series. So hopefully we might get a bit of a pro-am sort of mix going on. They're good fun cars to race. Anyone can jump in and drive them. So it'd be good to see the grid get up and maybe a combined thing. Like all these guys have been fantastic to race with the whole time. Obviously my teammates Tim Cornt and Braden Martin, who unfortunately couldn't make it tonight. So look, thanks to everyone. Thanks to Ira, obviously, for putting on the series. So yeah, awesome. Can't wait to see what's around the corner and hopefully be back.
I'm being told that a prestige trophy might be coming your way for top 3 in the championship, and if not a top 3, still a very, very good result.
Yeah, look, I was just happy to finish the race, and whatever happens in the championships, obviously it was definitely something that you try and go for, a piece of paper, a spreadsheet as I call it. That's really my thing that I go for, is to try and get towards the top of that spreadsheet. So yeah, no, pretty stoked, and just stoked to make the finish line and have a couple of good battles along the way. So thanks very much, and thanks to you guys for all your great coverage and commentary during the season.
Thank you. Do you want to shout out any B-rate podcasts that are top of home and lifestyle in Morocco?
Well, look, there's a current podcast, I believe, that's climbing up the charts in India called Locked On iRacing. So maybe just jump over to your Spotify's, your Apple's, anywhere you get your podcasts, and type in Locked On iRacing and see what you might find. You never know.
Exactly. Who knows what you might find. Thank you. See you around.
See you, mate. Thanks, guys.
Well, got our full podium with us. Cam Dance has second place Marty Turner.
Yeah, we do. Marty, pretty solid result in the end to come away with second, and not too bad of an end to the championship.
Yeah, no, it was a pretty good race overall. I think I just stuffed up my strategy a bit too much, and I started with a bit too much fuel. I was a bit heavy and a bit slow. My start was pretty bad, and yeah, guys got past me, but had some good battles in the beginning there, and I probably should have pit when the other guys pit on lap 3 or end of lap 3, but yeah, it is what it is. Still happy with second. It was good.
Now, as far as going slightly longer, obviously not quite what you anticipated. Obviously, you wanted to probably pit a little bit earlier. Did you find any sort of advantage to making that 1 lap extra pit stop, or did it sort of not, end up being about equal in the end?
Yeah, it was probably equal or maybe slightly worse than I was expecting, actually. The tyres took a bit longer to come up to temp than I thought they would. I thought it'd be good, but I was struggling to hold off Reese there for a while until they sort of came into range. But yeah, it definitely would have been better to pit on end of lap 3 for sure.
Well, nevertheless, still not bad of a season overall for you as far as Season 7 goes. Obviously heading to some UK tracks for Season 8. Are we going to expect to see you back on track again for the next season?
Yeah, planning to. Yep. Just sort of see what happens. But yeah, it's always great racing the TCR, so yeah, definitely keen to get the chicken up in there.
Good to hear. And before you let go, just any thanks and any shout-outs?
Yeah, just thanks to Prestige Trophy and Badge, Baz's Fencing, and Ira for putting on the league, and you guys for doing the broadcast. Thanks for that. And my Chicken Up teammates as well, Mitch and Ash.
Well, they have a pretty happy second place finisher in the final round of the championship tonight, and I believe you are standing by with our championship winner and race winner.
They kept you on your toes there, Yaman. Had to battle it out, had to redress one of the positions at some point, but it was all about the execution through the pit stops that gets you the race win and the championship.
Yeah, that's true, David. Obviously a little bit disappointing to not have Ryan there to fight with me all the way to the end. He was able to be the closest there through the Nordschleife section of the racetrack, and it was going to be an interesting one there. I was sort of thinking about that as we approach the pit stop phase of, well, where do we set myself up in terms of position on track? Do I want to lead onto the Dottinger Höhe for lap 6? Do I want to be in second? Starting to think about that, and then come out of the pit box, and Ryan didn't leave with me. So yeah, A little unfortunate, but nevertheless, definitely, obviously, best way to finish the championship by being able to bring it home at the front tonight. I think also was able to nab the fastest lap bonus as well there. So really super stoked with the way things turned out, and yeah, really happy to be able to walk away with the title after a rough start to the season. But it's been able to rebound there really well there in the second half.
We're going to pull together to get you some baking class lessons, because your donuts left a lot to be desired at the end.
Yeah, guilty as charged. No handbrake maps was probably an oversight for starters. And auto clutch still configured as a driver assist did me no favors there for good measure. So the answer was, looks like I must, probably need to finally grow up and turn off the auto clutch and learn, make sure I've got my ignition and starter keybinds always on hand. But yeah, also maybe get a handbrake back on the things. I did the Charlotte 4-hour last year. I actually did that solo last year. It happened to do some skids after the race in the Audi, mind you, back then it was. And yeah, I was taught the art of the reverse donut. So a bit disappointed I wasn't able to put that on for everyone and myself, but oh well, these things happen. It's a front wheel drive car, and yeah, auto clutch I think really did me in there tonight. But oh well, we'll learn for next time, I think.
Had an incredible amount of slipstream pack racing, particularly in the first half there. Save any fuel there? What was the fuel thoughts, knowing that there was going to be the compulsory tyre change as well?
Yeah, given the compulsory stop was in play, there was no real thoughts about fuel saving or concerns with it. Just set the fuel for the 3 laps to start the race with a little bit to spare there. Since the tyres change covers more than the 3 laps of fuel we needed tonight. Did end up saving a bit just because of the virtue of you're out of the throttle, at least to about 70% or less even, down some of those other straightaway sections where you can't really make a clean pass behind someone. So did end up saving almost a litre a lap, I think it was, in the opening phase of the race. But yeah, given the compulsory stop nature of the series and this race tonight, there wasn't any real need to worry about the fuel save, as it turned out.
You've seen it all the way to the end as the championship leader. The target was on your back, and you've sustained that pressure over 6 laps at a really challenging track. Congrats.
Thanks, David. Much appreciated.
Cam, end of the season. Got to say, all sorts of goodbyes and see you next year's, etc. There's one last man we've got to talk to, and you're with Ira Felberg.
Yeah, again, a fantastic season and a really, really good way, I guess, to reboot the series after a bit of a hiatus.
Yeah, well, you can't beat the old iRacing new content hype train. So, yeah, we jumped on board. Obviously, Jay and I had talked about it for a long time, basically just saying when they add some more cars, we'll add it again. So, yeah, and then obviously it's been an interesting season. Won't go into all that now because there's no time, but yeah, the numbers dropped off, obviously, but the racing got really good, especially after about round 2 or 3. No race control incidents, virtually, just a few. So I think moving forward to next season, we've got a really good core group and of keen drivers, and I have had a lot of people asking to join mid-season, but the reason we don't do that is because, you don't want people coming in and messing up like the group dynamic, so to speak. But yeah, it's been an interesting season, and yeah, the hype's kind of dropped off. But I think now, like I said, we've got a good core group.
Yeah, obviously there's been a lot of clean racing, and for the most part, it's been really, really good to watch, both in the entertainment and also, I think, from both drivers' perspectives of how clean it is and how good it is. So it's been really, really good to see. And obviously heading into next season, we head to all British tracks with the UK season, heading to Silverstone, Brands Hatch, Donington, Alton Park, Snedton, Knockhill. Was there any sort of particular reason as to going back to the UK, or was it just mix it up a little bit?
Yeah, a couple of reasons. So obviously going back to 6 rounds, just because, look, we tried 8, but it was too long, and I think if you ask the drivers, they'll say that as well. The other thing is, I do always like to stick to, some kind of a theme, and since they've added Knockhill, you can actually have 6 races in the UK. And the other thing is, if you look at the tracks, so Silverstone National layout, Brands Hatch Indy, Donington National, Snetterton 200. So all the short versions, basically, except for Alton Park and Knock Hill. And I found that does a few things. Like, you know, this season, like I said, there was a bit of hype, so we made it hard. But that can also put people off. So tracks that are easier to learn, you know, you don't have to do as much practice. You can kind of rock up, like, you know, Snetterton 200. It's like 3-4 corners, I think. And the other thing is, it keeps the racing closer. Like we saw, obviously we had the big one at Watkins Glen, but, you know, it's probably one of the best rounds this season, you know, because everybody was close and everybody was running together. So yeah, a couple of things there, mainly just to try and keep the layouts a bit shorter and have the racing a bit better. And yeah, just going back to the numbers, I know a lot of people measure by numbers, but, you know, Jay and I measure success by views and race control incidents. So the views have been pretty good, actually, which is interesting. So yeah, and that's the reasoning behind that. And also, so we are going to go, I've sorted out the sprint round servers. So the sprint rounds will be 3 15-minute races, no stops. Top 10 inverted for race 3. And then the regular races will be 1 15-minute race and 1 30-minute with 1 stop. And then the enduros will be 1 50-minute race. So yeah, I thought some of the racing this season as well, just a little bit too long. And the 15 and the 30 works so good. So yeah, so that's it pretty much.
Well, looking at the at what's ahead for next season, it's looking like it's going to be really, really good. Obviously, those mixed up formats from what we've seen this season are going to hopefully make for some very, very, I guess, spicy racing, and hopefully some very, very entertaining racing as well, both from drivers and also spectators' point of view. So it'll be really, really good to see what sort of happens in terms of the championship fights and what we might see as far as who is up the contention. Might see a bit of a shake-up, but who knows? It's going to be really, really good, I think.
Yeah, for sure. And we will still be running the Pro and the Pro-Am, probably just put everyone together, but there will be pre-quali. And obviously entries open. The best way to keep an eye on is just go to ozicar.net, the website. Entries open in 1 week. And just a quick thanks obviously to all you guys, Jay behind the scenes, for another great season, and the sponsors, Locked On iRacing Podcast, Sim Racing Leagues, and Prestige Trophy and Badge. Yep, thanks again, everyone. Cheers.
Well, we have it, David. Thank you very much, Ira, for your time you spend and obviously the money you put into the series with both Jay and also the series itself. It's been really, really good to see, and hopefully we can see what happens in Season 8 and possibly the future.
He's gone, but we look forward to that future Season 8, not too far away. Sorts of places you can get in touch and find out more about Ozicar. It's ozicar.net, I think, is the website. Google it, find them on Facebook, find the Discord, and you can find them across the iRacing forums. Love to have you for Season 8 as they hit up all of the UK tracks, touring car style. Congratulations to our season champions in both divisions. Great races. Brodie Shepherd and Dan Yeaman to take their respective classes with race wins here at the Nordschleife. Real measurement of the quality of a driver. Been David Haynes, Cam Dance with me, Jay Kennedy behind the scenes, and of course thanks go to Ozicar's partners in Locked On iRacing Podcast, Sim Racing Leagues, and Prestige Trophy Badge and Engraving. Make sure you're following us on SimSpeed for what is to come. And on Thursday night, Ozicar F3 goes to Iowa. F3 cars on the oval will be interesting to see. We'll see you then. Good night.
This is fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got rhythm, both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taking Anderson. Anderson's up top. Oh my god! Big crash. Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled.
Six very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, there we go. Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!